Um, yes, hello. My name is Foxtrot. I hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2023, and I was part of Trinity's Tramily. And yeah, I hiked that with my now husband, whose trail name is Rambo. So I didn't grow up hiking, but then Rambo and I did a couple of different like test runs, and then I just did it.
Ground. So I've always felt comfortable. It's always been natural to me. But I know that that's not necessarily the case for all women. But that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, there's a lot of obstacles, I think, out there, mostly mental, I think, for women getting
Yeah.
out on the trail, especially if they want a solo hike. You know, I know for myself personally, when I talk to people and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go do this. And the first reaction I get is like, oh, are you insane? You can't, you're a woman, or, that's not safe, or, what will you do if, A, B, or C happens? And
Even if you start off alone, you do eventually find people. I mean, not that you have to do that, but I think that some sort of, there's certainly a camaraderie. You can still check in with people.
yeah,
If you want to have a solo hike, you don't even have to hike with people, but you can just have a designated, like, we're going to meet up at this next, shelter or wherever. And then that's when people will know, like, oh, so, and then you'll check in with them, like, oh, they didn't make it here. Like, just want to make sure you're okay. And it's funny, there was one time where there was a bear that came into camp. Uh, I remember Georgia mentioning just kind of being like loud if you meet someone, or even see a bear, like just being very kind of loud and aggressive to let them know, to let either the bear or the kind of like potentially creepy townie know, because it's never someone on trail. It's always
it's always town, like going
yeah,
into or out of is when I
yeah,
found, if you're going to have a sort of like off
yeah,
instance, that's going to be when.
yeah. I remember there was that one person that we met in Pennsylvania who was very clearly like um not someone who was on trail, just being strange, because we could just tell that he was not a hiker.
Yeah.
I would be more worried about them stealing something
Yes.
than be about them harming me, I guess.
Everybody has each other's back out there.
Yeah.
But it's going into or out of town where you're more likely to meet people that don't really belong there. But even then, I think it's important to point out that's the rare instance.
Very rare.
When you meet people on trail, it's like, you don't have to be fearful, but you have to be aware of your surroundings, right? So, when you're hiking, like, every now and then I'll look behind me because I used to work in archaeology in CRM. And so we would be airdropped out in the middle of nowhere. So, it was a good thing just to check behind you to make sure that nothing was following you. Just keeping an eye on surroundings. But I think if you do ever feel uncomfortable, I think it's important to trust those gut instincts and just move on. It's not that big of a deal. But did you bring anything for like personal safety? Was that
Protect.
a concern?
I don't know. It's funny only because I had a friend that hiked the PCT. I asked him, I was like, what is the most common thing that people get rid of like right away? And he was like, big knives, like guns, because he had said that it's so safe. So I brought a pocket knife, but I only really brought the pocket knife for the other things, like the little scissors or those kind of things. So
Right.
I never thought that I would ever use. I just didn't think that that was going to be something I would have to worry about. And it's funny, I mentioned this in the last one, so I feel like I need to say this again. Like, we had talked about how women are more likely to actually be hurt by like a domestic partner
Yes.
than they are by a stranger. And when Rambo and I had told our families we were going to do this, I think 2 years prior, the Gabby Petito incident had
Right.
happened. had, and she had died. And my brother said to him, he was like, said to Rambo, there's only two options. Either you both come out of the woods or only she comes out of the woods.
I don't think people should just live in fear 24/7. It's be aware, right? And you're more likely to, like I said, have a car crash and get hurt in the car crash on the way to the trail than you are on trail.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at the statistics, it's incredibly rare that anything would happen to you hiking on the trail. Now, it's almost never hikers that this happens to. So it's because you're prepared.
I think if people keep that in mind, more people will feel comfortable going out and experiencing it. I never brought a weapon with me. I had my whistle and I had my bear spray because I was more concerned actually about stray dogs, right? Than I was.
Yeah.
And again, that's something you would experience in your own neighborhood, going walking down the street to get your mail or something. So, again, I think it's perspective. So I think we're running out of time. Great conversation, lots of good information there, and hopefully, it'll help a lot of other hikers that are contemplating it. Thank you again for your time.